Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex, coming to you from my mom's house in Eugene, Oregon. This time we do it when we can do it. Every month I bring you the best board games coming to retail, coming to stores or online marketplaces, publishers' websites, things like that. And this month is no different. I'm here with about 25. Every month I do about 25 games. Before I get into the games though, I want to let you know that I actually did recently have a comedy special come out. So many of you know that I'm also a professional comedian. And so I just had a comedy special come out through Dry Bar called Silly Mustache Man, because that fits me very well. If you want to check it out, it is on Dry Bar right now. I'll put a link in the description of this video, and I'll even put a promo code in there. If you use the code GRANTLYON, just my full name, all caps, you can get a month subscription for free. You can check out the special. You can, a lot of work and a lot of shows and all that sort of stuff go into creating a special, so I'd love for you to check it out. But here we go. Let's talk about all the best games coming to retail in September. As you might guess, each month there is more than 25 board games that are coming to retail stores. So I try to choose a variety of games, a bunch of the different games that I've seen at conventions that people are talking about, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully there's something in here for everybody. And if you want to know about all the additional games coming to retail, the ones that didn't make this video, that is one of the perks on my Patreon. So check out my Patreon, patreon.com/GrantsGameRex. But for now, let's get into the games. First up this month from 25th Century Games is Dracula vs. Van Helsing. This is a two-player only game, so if you are looking to crush your significant other at a game or something like that, then this one might be for you. Plays in 20 to 45 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game, but on the upper end of lighter weight. It is an asymmetric game too, so if you like asymmetry in your games, this one, Dracula, plays very different from Van Helsing, both in their play styles and their win objectives. Van Helsing wins if he can drain Dracula's life points, and Dracula wins if he can turn all four inhabitants in a district into vampires. So again, different win conditions there. You will each have a set of cards in a card holder in front of you, and each of those cards is referring to a different district, and you're trying to have more power in that district if you are Dracula in order to flip one of the townsfolks into a vampire, and if you're Van Helsing, you're trying to have more power to prevent Dracula from doing that and stuff. So it's about like managing your hand. You're trading out cards. When you discard a card, when you play a card, you're also going to get a special ability from it. And each number 1 through 8 has a different special ability that will allow you to do different things. So, it's about being clever, playing the right cards, and outsmarting your opponent. Again, if you like asymmetric two-player games, then check out Dracula vs. Van Helsing. AEG is releasing the game Nocturne. This is also a partnership with Flat Out Games. Plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes, and it is a medium weight game, but on the lighter end of medium weight games. There's a fun theme. You are fox mystics casting spells to outwit one another and collect magical forest items. I don't know if that theme, it's not probably theme heavy forward, but if you fox mystics, again, I don't know how much that comes across, but you are a fox mystic. There's a grid of different tiles, and that size of that grid is going to be dependent on player count, but you are bidding for tiles. However, you want to be clever in your bidding, because when you put down your bid, someone else has to place a bid next to that of higher value. And then someone can place a bid next to that. And you can continue to place bids around and around until everybody else passes except for one player, and then that player will gain that tile. you have bids, you have, bidding numbers, chips that are, I think, 2 to 7. Again, that's going to be dependent on player count and stuff too. So you're going to, if you use a 7 on something you didn't really care about, well, that's on you. That's a mistake. You want to save those higher numbers for ones you really care about. So when you start the bidding, you might start it with a 2 or a 3, hoping that other people bid higher that gets you to the tile you actually want, that sort of stuff, because that first bid may not win the actual, the bidding for it. And then once you get tiles, it's mostly a set collection thing after that. So if you like set collection, then that might be for you in that way as well. Alley Cat Games is releasing the game Happy Home. What are you doing, pal? Are you trying to say hello? This is Alley Cat Games is this is Max, my mom's dog. Hey pal. Yeah. Like I was saying, Happy Home. Happy Home is this game we're talking about. And do you have a happy home, Max? I think you do. You don't like being in laps that much, though. You want to get down? Yeah, okay. You can sit down. As I was saying, Alley Cat Games is releasing Happy Home. It's a polyomino tile laying game. So if you're a fan of polyomino games, then this might be one for you. Plays 2 to 5 players in 20 to 45 minutes, and it is straddling that lighter weight or medium weight category. In the game, you are doing some worker placement around a rondel, and there are cards on each spot of the rondel that will get you different tiles. And all of those tiles will be put into your home, into different rooms of your home. Your home has a bathroom and a kitchen and that sort of stuff, and different tiles will be placed in different rooms, and they must be placed in different ways, and they're different sizes and all that sort of stuff. So, this one needs to be put up against a wall and things like that. So, if you like polyomino games, this might be one for you. And, ultimately you are also trying to fulfill objectives and things like that with how you are placing stuff into your house. You're trying to make a happy home, dude. If your home is dysfunctional, you are not winning this game. This game is called Happy Home, not, falling apart home. Alley Cat Games is also releasing the game FateFlip Washed Ashore. This is a solo-only game, but, as with any solo game, you could play it cooperatively with other people and just make the choices together, but it's meant to be a solo game. Plays in 35 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game. This is the first in a planned series of games, FateFlip games, using this FateFlip mechanism style, but this is the first one called Washed Ashore. The theme of this is you are surviving on a deserted island. You are trying to get off of the deserted island. You've washed up there and you're trying to get off. But the thing that sets it apart is it is mostly a story-based choose-your-own-adventure style game. You are going to be flipping cards, and there's going to be a lot of story on those cards, and you are going to be choosing which way to drive the story forward. So in that way, the game is replayable up to a certain amount because there are 13 different paths in the game, and so you can play it again and make different choices and see where the game leads you. But, because it's a story game, there is a shelf life to it, right? Like, there will be a point where you have seen everything, but it's a small box, so I think, if you play it 10 times and see different stuff, you're going to get a lot you're going to get your money's worth out of the game for sure. And, you're going to have stats and stuff like that for your character that are going to be going up and down and all that sort of stuff, trying to manage different things and survive and get off the island. So that is Washed Ashore. Asmodee, in association with Ludonova, is releasing the game Flatiron. This is a 1 or 2 player game, plays in about 45 minutes, and it is a solidly medium weight game. Thematically, this is based around the Flatiron building, which is originally called the Fuller building, which is a famous structure in Manhattan, New York. It's a historic structure that's got a kind of a funky triangular shape. And so you will be sort of building that triangular building, but doing a lot of engine building along the way. There is a rondel in the center area of the game on the board, and you can be stopping at places to buy cards to add to your engine, or you can fire off certain spots on your engine. You know, if you land on this red spot on the rondel, you're going to fire off all the cards that you have put on your red spot on your own personal player board. And so it's about upgrading your cards, adding new actions, and then, you know, firing it off efficiently. And then you're going to be, you know, sort of be building little columns for the building and stacking stuff. So by the end of the game, there is some fun table presence with the sort of three-dimensional building that you have created. And again, you can play this solo, no problem, but also you can play it competitively with another person and try to build the most efficient engine and you know, contribute the most to building this Flatiron building, getting points along the way. So yeah, I'm a sucker for good table presence, and so this one definitely, you know, ends the game with some cool table presence. Asmodee and CMYK are releasing Wilmot's Warehouse. This is a party-ish game, but a game that's pretty unique when it comes to party games. Plays 2 to 6 players in 30 minutes, and it is a lightweight game. There's going to be a big board, and you are going to be adding tiles to each spot on the board. And all of the tiles kind of have abstract shapes about them, and you are building a story amongst the people playing the game in order to remember where each tile is and goes, because they will get flipped down, face down, and you have to remember where all this stuff is. And I know, you know, some people hear memory game and they go, oh, I don't like memory games. And I'm kind of the same way. I'm not a huge fan of memory games, but this doesn't feel like a memory game as much as it feels like an improvisational storytelling game, because you really do end up building this whole narrative throughout the game of what this shape represents and why it's here. And like the time I played this recently with a bunch of friends, and our story was about this super rich guy with a golden toilet who was pooping in wealthy places, and this was his toilet paper, and above the toilet paper was extra rolls, and it just became this wild story about a rich guy pooping, and then there was like old toilets and young toilets and all this stuff. It's like nonsensical but really memorable. I do think that Wilmot's Warehouse is a game that is highly dependent on the group that you play it with, right? If people don't want to get into the storytelling aspect of it, if they're just like, oh, we can remember this, well, that's not the point of the game. You want to build that story. You know, it's like when they used to, what are those things called? Mnemonic devices, where you're like, oh, I remember the colors of the rainbow because I know that, you know, R represents this, and all that sort of stuff. And so this is kind of like that, but just in a full storytelling game, and it feels very unique and interesting and memorable. I've only played it once, but I certainly remember the story we created to remember where all the tiles were there. So yeah, if you like the sound of that, check it out. Asmodee and Equinox are releasing the tradable card game Altered. This plays 2 to 4 players in 10 to 40 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. I have gotten to demo this one. I guess I've only seen it as 2 players. I've played it as 2 players, so I would think that the best player count for Altered is 2 players. I wonder if 4 players, maybe you play it in teams or something like that. But, you know, Altered is... it had a huge Kickstarter, right? Like, it raised like $7 million on Kickstarter or something like that. And the artwork is really cool, and the gameplay is cool. Now, there's a lot of extra stuff with the game. Like, each card has QR codes on it, and there's an online marketplace, and you can sell cards, and you can register them to your name, and other people can see what cards you have. honestly, I don't really care about all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's cool, it's different, but like, that's not, to me, it's like, is the gameplay good? Like, is this a good game? And I can definitively say, yes, I have really enjoyed it. You know, it's gonna get compared, right? Like, Lorcana is one of the new hot TCGs. And Lorcana is like a good intro to TCGs, right? Because of the Disney characters and the artwork. But in terms of like mechanisms and like gameplay, I like Altered more. There's just more interesting choices, more interesting cards and stuff like that in it. And it's not really a combative TCG. You know, a lot of people, when they think of TCG, they think of Magic the Gathering, and a lot of TCGs are like one person fighting the other person. Well, Altered isn't about fighting, it's about racing. You have two characters on the opposite end of this sort of line with different biomes, different habitat sort of types on it, and you are trying to be the first to get your two characters to meet, and you're doing it by playing cards, and those cards are going to have stats and special abilities and all that sort of stuff. So it's it's an interesting race, and it's nice to have like a TCG that's not just about like fighting each other, I guess. So yeah, if you, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of cards and there's a lot of packs. So, you know, I don't do a ton of TCGs because they really are sort of lifestyle games, right? There's a deep rabbit hole of content you can go down if you want to. There's a lot of packs and, you know, boxes and all that sort of stuff. And there's gonna be common cards and uncommon cards and rare cards and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, if you're looking for a new TCG, Altered is a cool game. Asmodee and Repos Productions are releasing the game Fairy Ring. Fairy Ring plays 2 to 4 players in about 40 minutes, and it is a lighter medium weight game. The art and stuff is really pretty in this game. Bright blue cards, different colors, that sort of stuff. And in Fairy Ring, you are going to be playing cards in front of you onto your, your own individual player board, but you can play cards, and then that creates a fairy ring of cards, and you are going to move your meeple along the fairy ring. So you can land on other people's cards or land back on your own cards that you have played. And when you are landing on other people's cards, you're going to get points, but they're also going to get points when you land on theirs. However, if you land only on yours, you're the only one getting points. And you're going to get points for different mushroom types and things like that that you have. You're going to activate stuff in your own personal tableau. And when you add a card to your tableau, you can either add it onto a mushroom of the same type and build that mushroom taller, or you can add it to the left or the right. And it's going to have a number in the upper left with how much you can move around the fairy ring. And stuff like that. So, it's an interesting puzzle about how can you play the right cards, activate the right cards, give yourself more points without giving other people as many points. And so, it plays pretty quick. Again, it's like 40 minutes, but it's over just 2 seasons. That's it. So, if you want a puzzly little card game about mushrooms, then check out Fairy Ring. Space Cowboys and Asmodee are releasing the game Inori. This plays 2 to 4 players in about 30 minutes, and it is a medium weight game, really focused on card games, but it's a worker placement game because there's going to be this central board that has some cards on it, and you are playing workers down into spots of those cards, and those are giving you tokens of certain color types. But only if all of the spots on the card get filled by workers amongst the players, then that card scores. But if nobody fills the card, then that card isn't going to score. So there's this interesting sort of cooperative aspect to it, even though it's a competitive game where you want other players to go to the same card that you are on because you want it to fill up so that it scores points. If you put 2 workers on one card and nobody else goes there and that third spot doesn't get filled, you're not scoring points for those workers on that card. So yeah, just an interesting push and pull where you're trying to think about what other people are going and that sort of stuff. And then the other thing that's interesting is when a card doesn't score, then you put out a new card of the opposite type. Basically, every card has a yin and a yang, and so if you put out this green card and it doesn't score, then a gray card's going to come out because gray is opposite of green in the game. Or a purple one doesn't score, then you're going to put out a yellow card and stuff like that. So just an interesting take on worker placement games. And so, yeah, I like the idea of it. Activating abilities, earning points, obtaining favor tokens, and all of that sort of stuff. Board and Dice is releasing the game Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. This plays 1 to 4 players in 90 to 150 minutes, and it is a heavier weight game. It's definitely not the heaviest weight game, but it is on the heavyweight side. Thematically, you are becoming the leader of the first European civilization in the ancient realm of Crete. One interesting thing about that is the Minoan civilization disappeared, and we don't know why. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's intriguing, That's not really what the game is about. This is more of like a dice placement, worker placement, engine building game. You will be drafting dice from a dice pool and placing them out on the board and getting actions for those dice that you have placed out on the board. But the interesting choice of the game, the difficult decision space, is that you are going to be assigning dice to the board, and the lower value dice go to the left, and the actions are stronger. The lower the value of the dice, the stronger the action that it gives you. But the higher value dice will help you climb up on tracks more because the pips are going to matter for climbing up on tracks, and you're going to gain benefits from the tracks. So do you want the stronger actions, or do you want to move up on tracks and gain those benefits? I love a good dice placement game because they feel replayable, right? You never know how the dice are going to roll, and it's interesting choices. Every time you play the game, it's going to be a little bit different of a puzzle based on what type of what numbers are rolled and all that sort of stuff. During the action phase of the game, each player takes their dice in order from highest to lowest, performing the pre-planned actions on the board. And you're also going to build your own tableau, and each card has an instant effect and a triggered reward connected to the specific action or die value you can use to make the action more powerful. So, as you might imagine with a heavier weight game, there's a decent amount of stuff going on, building buildings and, getting different tokens and goods and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into everything here, but if you like dice placement games, then you might like Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. Devere Games is releasing Planta Nubo. This plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 120 minutes, and it is also a heavyweight game. You've got multiple options this month for heavyweight games. In the thematically Planta Nubo, each player is going to be working to create their own gardens in the sky to harvest oxygen in a solar punk world. You're going to be doing some tile laying in your own personal player board area. You are going to be putting different tiles down and sort of planting flowers on those tiles represented by cubes. And then you can harvest those things to sort of feed an engine. And one of the interesting stuff is there's spots around your personal player area, and you're going to be adding cards to the player area, and every time you pass that card going around the outside of your board, that card is going to like level up. You're going to add a token that makes that card more powerful. So you want to try to get around your circle to level up all of your cards. You know, and again, with a heavyweight game, right, there's a bunch of other stuff going on in the game too. There's tokens and tiles and all this sort of stuff that are going to get you different special abilities and things like that. But if you like heavier weight sort of games with a polyomino aspect, with an engine building aspect to it, you know, that's, and I like the theme, right? Growing energy-rich flowers and plants in cloudy gardens, the treetops of the arbors. So produce oxygen with your garden. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Check it out, Planta Nubo. Fireside Games is releasing the game Zoomies. This plays 2 to 4 players in 30 minutes, and it is on the edge of the lighter weight game, I would say. Zoomies is, if you don't know what that is, that's when dogs and stuff just zoom around and run around a bunch. They get out their energy and they're having a great time. It's definitely something that dogs like to do. And so I like the theme of the game, right? That's a very relatable, fun sort of different take on a dog game. You are going to be placing tiles down, and they're sort of like domino-style tiles. You know, think of like King Domino or that sort of stuff. And you're placing them down into a shared grid, and then you get to add your tokens to that shared grid, and tokens will determine how that scores. And so, you know, you might, this token is giving you friends. So for every tile of this color that's touching a tile of this color, you're going to score points for that. And, you know, you're just doing a bunch of stuff, putting down domino-style tiles and putting down tokens to score points. And that's where a lot of the replayability comes in, is the puzzle of which scoring token do you activate at different points and different things like that, you know, placing your dogs right and scoring the best, being most efficient with how you score your points. Yeah, and you know, sometimes that also, the way you place your domino tile down might help your opponent based on the tokens that they have already down and stuff like that. So you want to give yourself points and not your opponent. Hey, that's a novel idea for a game. Flat River Group, in association with Rose Gauntlet Entertainment, is releasing the game Wild Gardens. This plays 1 to 4 players in 90 to 120 minutes, and it is a solidly medium weight game. The artwork is gorgeous on Wild Gardens. This one did have a crowdfunding campaign that was very successful, but now it is having its retail release. So if you did not check out the crowdfunding campaign, this is your chance to do it. If you like beautiful artwork, that's a reason to check it out too. You are playing, each person is playing as a forager, and you are moving around the garden, foraging different ingredients, and then cooking meals. You're cooking meals like order fulfillment style for various different guests. There are sort of multiple paths along the garden, so that's one of the choices of how you want to move around here. And every spot you stop at, you're going to get actions. Those actions might be foraging. You're taking an item from the 2 neighboring spots. If you stop at a picnic, that's where you can you can cook, you know, when you're at a picnic area and stuff like that. And so, you know, you are getting cards, using those cards to move along the board, and ultimately fulfilling orders and stuff like that. The scoring system is interesting because you'll have 2 tokens on the board. One of them is your jar, and one of them is like flowers, I think. And so you need to sort of try to move both of those along the scoring track in order to do well in the game. And the jars are a lot harder to score, and are going to score in different ways than the other ones. So there's multiple things you have to think about when you're talking about scoring the game. And again, if you like beautiful medium weight games, then if you like recipe fulfillment, that sort of stuff, then and you know, each of the different foragers in the games comes with like a unique ability. So there's some replayability in that. You know, they have their own unique play style. and stuff. So that's a reason to check it out. Wild Gardens. Flat River Games, in association with Barrel Aged Games, is releasing the game Plantopia. The card game plays 1 to 5 players in 20 to 30 minutes, and it is a higher, lighter weight game. I actually did get a chance to play this one at Gen Con, and it's a small box game that feels bigger than it is. You know, there is a lot of card comboing and stuff like that, so it feels bigger, like the strategy feels bigger than just a little small box game. You are playing cards in front of you, and you're either playing them as baby plants, or you can sacrifice your baby plants to grow into an adult plant. But one of the interesting choices of the game is the baby plants don't score you any points, but they get you a lot of like special abilities and engine building sort of stuff. So you have to kind of sacrifice and get rid of those to build an adult plant that is going to get you points at the right time. You know, you need to time that out and go, okay, I don't really need these special abilities anymore. Now I need to focus on getting a scoring card and making sure that scoring card scores well. And all of the different cards are going to combo well with each other. I mean, that's one of the things you want to do in the game for sure, is like make sure you're getting stuff. Okay, I have these that's going to score me points for that. I have these that's going to score me points in a different way. So it's about getting like card combos and stuff like that. It's a lot of simultaneous play in the game, which is why it plays quickly. You're going to be picking cards, running your engine, building your plants, all that sort of stuff at the same time. So yeah, if you like card combos and stuff like that, then Plantopia is a good one to check out. If you like a smaller box game that feels bigger in its strategy than just its small box, that's another reason to check out Plantopia. Gray Fox Games is releasing the game Clans of Midgard. This is like it's sort of set in the world of Midgard. You know, Gray Fox Games has Champions of Midgard and Reavers of Midgard, but those are standalone games. It's not like a sequel or something like that. It's just sort of set in this Viking world, and so thematically you are Viking leaders in this game, and you are so it's set in the same series as of all their other Midgard games, but they have nothing to do with each other, like in mechanisms and stuff like that. So Clans of Midgard plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 60 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. It is a draft and write game, but a draft and write game that has an actual sort of board game element to it. In a lot of draft and write games, there's cards and there's a sheet and you're marking stuff on your sheet, and that's all well and good. But this actually has meeples and a central board, and you're going to be doing some area control stuff on the board as well. There's a ton of multi-purpose cards in the game. All of the cards are going to get you different stuff, and each card has a number of different ways that it can be used and things that it can be used for. So again, drafting, you are going to be drafting a card from a hand and then passing the rest of the hand, and then drafting a card and that sort of stuff. And then activating those, the different icons that are on that card. Those are going to score you points in different ways and get you to cross off stuff on your sheet. It is a roll and write, a draft and write game that has a lot of different options and paths and ways to score points. And all the cards you draft are going to cross off different things on your board. But one of the things that you will be doing is then adding meeples to whichever area you have the most sort of power in at the end of the round. You're going to be adding meeples out to different areas, and then working on fighting other people and area control and that sort of stuff. So I guess that just makes it feel a little bit different than a lot of sort of draft and write games to me. The fact that there is sort of this area control, combat-y feel and an actual like board game element to it. So, and if you like multi-use cards, then that's one of the reasons to check this out as well. Hachette Games, in association with Unfriendly Games, is releasing The dexterity game Nekojima. This is the first time it's available in North America in retail. It came out in Europe a little while ago, but plays 1 to 5 players, 15 to 30 minutes, and it is a lighter weight dexterity style game. There are these poles, and every pole has a rope between it, and they're sort of representing electrical lines, electrical poles. I guess that theme comes across in the sense that you can't touch the line and other lines can't touch each other. Electrical, don't have the wires get crossed. So in that sense, I guess the theme comes across, but it is a pretty abstract dexterity game. And you are going to be rolling dice, and those dice are going to tell you where you can place your poles. And you will be stacking poles on top of others. And then you're going to be pulling a cube from the bag, and that tells you what type of line that you have to take. The red ones, the magenta ones are shorter poles, and the white ones have longer lines between them. And so it's just, all about stacking the stuff and trying not to make it all collapse. It's like reverse Jenga kind of in that way where you're building stuff up. And you can actually, one of the cool things about it is there is a cooperative mode or a competitive mode. In the competitive mode, one person loses and everybody else wins. And in a cooperative mode, you're trying to work together to get the biggest structure and pull the most cubes that you can. So, this is a great family game. It plays as young as really you want it to, and it's just about stacking all this sort of stuff. And it has a couple of different modes to the game. So it is, it looks really cool on the table. It's definitely got some great table presence, and there is that tension in the game, right? With a lot of dexterity games like this, there's that, can I pull this off? Can I place it there? Like that sort of stuff. There are fun, emotional moments at the table for sure. Hachette Games, in association with Super Meeple, is releasing Kronologic Paris 1920. I've heard some people say Kronologic too, so I don't know exactly how to pronounce this. This plays 1 to 4 players, 30 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. This is a heavy deduction style game. I've seen some people online sort of call it, this is Clue mixed with Turing Machine. So if you like, thinky deduction games, this might be for you. And you are sort of building a lineup like Clue of this person with this weapon and this location sort of stuff. But one of the differences of the game, you're going to be asking questions of the game and getting information. And you're always going to get 2 pieces of information. And one of those pieces of information is for your eyes only. And then the other piece of information is for everybody playing the game. So it's just interesting in how there's shared information and personal information. And the first person that can figure it out is going to win the game. The first person that, is going to use their powers of deduction. If you like puzzly games, if you like clever twists and stuff like that, that this might be for you. I definitely want to play it. I'm terrible at deduction, for sure. But, I still want to try it. There are 3 different eras in the game: contemporary, historic, and futuristic. And every scenario can be replayed 5 times. So there's a decent amount of replayability, but at some point you are going to, if you play it enough, you're going to see all of the stuff the game has to offer, all the different solutions and stuff like that, I think it's cool that like Clue is obviously a game that everybody knows, whether they like it or not. It's cool to bring sort of Clue-style games into this modern world of board games. So I'm happy that this one exists. So hopefully that comparison to Clue can get some new people to try out modern board games. Hachette, in association with Gigamic, is releasing Looot, but there's an extra O in it, so I guess it's like Loot. You got to say it sassy like that, Loot. Looot plays 2 to 4 players in 35 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. It's always funny to see 35 minutes. Like put 30 to 40. Who does 30? No, it's 35. We're being very specific, you know. I love when games do that. In Loot, you are placing meeples out on a board, but every meeple that gets placed has to be connected to a previous one that has been placed. So you're sort of spreading out on the board, and every spot you place down on is going to have different abilities and different tokens and that sort of stuff. You know, like if you want to take over a castle, you need 4 of your meeples connected to that castle. And then you are taking tokens and adding them to your own personal player board, and you're filling out your player board with it. You know, thematically, it's like, hey, you are gathering resources with these meeples and then, you know, sending them back home and using them to build stuff in your own sort of fiefdom. And so it's about who can do the best stuff, you know, back on their own personal player board and put down these you know, different buildings and stuff like that. You're putting houses down and shields and long ships and all this sort of stuff. And so, yeah, it's about sort of building out your own player area with these tiles, and it's a clever meeple placement and that sort of stuff. You know, it's one that Gigamic does some good games that are like, this is a strategic game but still plays pretty quickly, and that's like really my wheelhouse. I love good strategy games that still play in like an hour or less, and so I'm excited to check out Loot for that reason. Kess is releasing the game Sonic Speed Battle. This plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 60 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game. There's actually 3 separate card games in this box, and each of those games plays 2 to 4 players and uses the same exact deck, the same components, but uses them in different ways, so you can get multiple games out of the same components, the same cards. And a lot of the games are like these high-speed battles. You know, if you like Sonic and stuff like that, Sonic is obviously a lot about speed. You're rushing through a course and getting a bunch of stuff. And so you are racing against other players. You're just racing in different ways and for different things for the different card games that are in it. You are blasting opponents that stand in your way, searching for the lost master emerald shards, gathering friends and rivals to compete in the ultimate challenge. Like one of the games in the box is called Action Race, and there's a lot of simultaneous play where you are each picking a card to play and then flipping it over, and then sometimes you get into war-style battles where you're playing cards of the same value against another player, and whoever can play more of those card values is going to win the battle and stuff like that. So I like simultaneous play. I like Sonic, and so yeah. If you're a fan of Sonic, then that's a reason to check out Sonic Speed Battle. Kids Table Board Games is releasing the game Cafe Baras. This plays 2 to 4 players in 20 to 40 minutes, and it is a lighter weight card game. This is by the same person who designed Creature Comforts and Maple Valley, so it's got all this, and it's the same artist as well, so it's got the, you know, sort of same feel as those other games, the sort of cozy but strategic gameplay. But this one is a much smaller box and a much lighter weight, faster gameplay, that sort of stuff. So, you know, if you felt like those other ones were maybe a little bit too much for your family or something, maybe your kids weren't old enough to wrap their head around the strategy of like Creature Comforts, then this is a way you can sort of get them into that universe, but in a little bit lighter of a way. It's a card drafting tableau building game, so you're either going to be placing cards into your own tableau, or you're going to be fulfilling orders and trying to, you know, make the customers happy because you are capybaras running a coffee shop here. Cafe Baras, you know. I love capybaras. They're like giant hamsters, and so this is a game all centered around them. And you know, it's again that cozy cafe, and all the cards are going to have sort of multiple icons on them, and you can use them in different ways and stuff like that. So you're trying to, you know, build up your decor in your own cafe. You are trying to use it as food or drink or that sort of stuff, serving the customer on the card, earning money. You know, just run the best cafe you can because you're a capybara that loves coffee. Cosmos is releasing the game The Gang. This plays 3 to 6 players in about 20 minutes, and it is a lighter to medium weight game. The Gang is essentially cooperative Texas Hold'em. I do a video every month on my top 5 games of the month, and The Gang was my #1 game of August. I love games that are social. I love games that like get everybody talking, and The Gang is highly social because it is cooperative, but you're using logic and deduction in an interesting way. I think The Gang it's a game that I'm glad exists in the hobby because I think it's either it's going to be two things. It will sort of help introduce people to the idea of poker and Texas Hold'em in a sort of nice hand-holdy way, or it's also going to be this cool modern game twist on Texas Hold'em for people that already like Texas Hold'em but don't know much about games outside of poker. I think it's going to bring some of those people in, because I will say about myself, I played a ton of poker when I was in college. That's like the game that my friends and I played the most, and then I didn't really want to keep playing poker because I, you know, didn't want to keep spending money every night and stuff like that, you know. This sort of takes all the hand building of Texas Hold'em without any of the betting, which is why I think it's going to bring some other people in. People like the mechanisms of poker but don't want to have to like wear sunglasses and sit silently so you can't read my face. This makes Texas Hold'em poker way more social because we're all going to be talking. The way the game works is it's just Hold'em, like in the sense that you are building your best 5-card hand based on 2 cards in your own personal pocket and then 5 cards that are going to be out on the board. But each time you reveal a card, you're going to do the same thing you do in Hold'em, where you have a flop and a turn and a river. And each time you do that, you are taking a token that is giving information to the table. And the value of the tokens is going to be dependent on the number of players playing the game. But let's say we're playing a 6-player game. If I quickly grab for the 6, it means I have a really good hand. You know, maybe I got pocket aces. Maybe I got something like that. And if I'm grabbing for the 1, I got a real bad hand. I got a 5-2 off-suited or something like that. And so there's a lot of talking amongst everybody of being like, okay, you took a really low one early, but then after the flop, you jump to a high one. So obviously you hit on something out here. Let's hypothesize of what that could be. And you're all sort of hypothesizing together and trying to rank your hand correctly. At the end of the hand, once all 5 cards are out there, if you have ranked all of your individual hands correctly, you win that round, and you basically need to win 3 rounds before you fail 3 rounds. And so I just love the deduction aspect of it. It's an opportunity to play poker without having to lose money and spend money and that sort of stuff. So I will say, at low player counts, the game is very easy. I don't think that like 3 players is the best way to play this game. I think the Gang really shines at like 5-6 players. It makes it difficult, but a really interesting deduction challenge to play it. So I definitely think it's worth checking out. All right, next up, Mr. B Games and Mayfair Games are releasing Celtae. This is a game that came out at Essen last year, but is now having its North American retail debut. Plays 1 to 4 players in 50 to 100 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. Celtae is a worker swapping game. So there is a rondel. We got a bunch of rondels this month, I'm realizing. There is a rondel, and you are going to move a piece around to choose actions on that rondel. But before you do the action, you can swap one of the workers in your own personal pool with one of the workers available in a specific area of the rondel. And then the workers that you have are going to determine which action you can do and how powerful that action and stuff like that. So, that action gets boosted if you have the right workers in your worker pool. You need farmers, builders, soldiers, nobles, and so it's about swapping out the right worker to be able to make that action more powerful for yourself. So, a unique way to do sort of a worker placement game, but they're calling it a worker swapping game. And then there's some, engine building with it too. You're going to have a leader card at the beginning of the game, and, those are going to get you a special ability, and you are going to move each time the action marker on the rondel completes a full turn, the player who currently holds the favor places a progress marker on one of the progress cards next to the game board. And yeah, I just think it seems like an interesting way to do worker placement. So, worth checking out for that reason. Pegasus Spiele, in association with Deep Print Games, is releasing the game Intarsia. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This plays 2 to 4 players in 40 to 60 minutes, and it is a higher weight, lighter game, sort of straddling that lightweight, medium weight game. This is from the same person that designed Azul and is getting compared to Azul in that crunchy, puzzly decisions, abstract game, still easy enough to teach sort of thing. So you are in a cafe in Paris, and you are redoing the floor of that cafe and, putting down tiles and making it beautiful and that sort of stuff. So you are, on your own personal player area, you are going to be building up these sort of beautiful patterns. And you're going to do that by discarding cards from your hand. You need to spend cards, like the first level of this sort of flowery mosaic thing is going to cost 1 card. And then you can put a piece on the inside of that, and that's going to cost you 2 cards. And then you can put another piece, and that's going to cost you 3 cards. And you can only build out next to things you've already built. You need these little, I forget what they're called, but they're these little sort of X's, these frames. And you can build next to those, and then once you do that, you can put another frame next to another one that you've built. And then amongst that, it is a racing game. There's going to be a bunch of cards, and if you can get that pattern before anybody else, you're going to get that and score points for that and stuff like that. So you're trying to build these cool abstract patterns on your own personal player board and then collect these cards that score you points and stuff like that. So, if you are a fan of Azul or other sort of abstract puzzly games like that, then you probably will like Intarsia. Intarsia. So yeah, it's cool. I like puzzly games. I like beautiful games, and this is definitely both of those things. Skybound Tabletop is releasing Creepshow, the suspense building game. Ooh, what's it about? The suspense is building. You don't know yet, but I'm about to tell you. So the suspense is not going to build that much. Plays 2 to 5 players in 40 to 60 minutes, and it is a lighter weight game. It is a competitive story building game. So if you like storytelling, if you like story in your game, then this one might be for you. And, Halloween's coming up, right? So this has a certain spooky theme to it. So for that reason, it's appropriate for this time of the year. On your turn, you're going to be either creeping or showing. When you creep, you may first discard any number of story cards in your hand you no longer want, then draw back up to 7. Then you must play a suspense card face down to any villain's stack so other players won't know what you've played. Ooh, there's the suspense. When you show, you may play a story card from your hand to a villain's story chain. These will have various effects from earning you points, looking at suspense cards already there, adding suspense cards of your own, that sort of stuff. So, and then eventually you're going to reveal the story and stuff like that of what you played on different things. So, and you can't let villains escape. The player who attempted to end their story and they escaped cannot win the game. Oh, that's suspense as well. So yeah, if you're looking for a new game for Halloween, then maybe Creepshow is for you. Smirk and Dagger are releasing the game HiFi. This plays 2 to 4 players in 45 to 70 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. In HiFi, thematically, you are producing the B-side of a legendary and unfinished rock album. It's got amazing table presence because one of the big things is there is literally a big turntable, and you are rotating that turntable to do action selection. Rotating that turntable and ending on a spot is going to get you cards and different actions and that sort of stuff. So, you know, it literally looks like a record player in front of you, so that's super cool. And then beyond that, you are then playing cards into a central player area. We're all going to be playing cards into the same area and sort of building tracks for that album, and you are trying to get cards in a certain order to do pattern fulfillment. You know, if I can get a yellow card and a bluish card and then a purple card next to each other, then I can, oh look, this was the pattern on my card that I needed to fulfill, and I just did that. So, you know, there's that interesting thing of we're all playing in the same area, so like I'm setting up a turn and I just need that card there, and then someone else plays a different color there, and I'm like, oh no, yeah, that's what I was trying to do, you know, we're not friends anymore, you know, that sort of thing. And then there's other things that are going to happen on the board, right? There's turn mixers that can go up and get turned and all that sort of stuff, and band members that you can gain, and you know, but I'm a sucker for good table presence, and HiFi is definitely one of those games where someone's going to walk along and be like, oh, what's this? What are you playing right there? Tell me more. And I love that about games. That's how we get some new people into games here. Yeah, I just, and you know, I feel like there weren't that many good music-themed games until recently, and then there's been some good ones recently, you know, like Hard Rock 1977, and the Inside Up had a Draft and Write Records was cool, and then this one is adding to that. Did I say Hard Rock? I meant Rock Hard 1977. That makes me sound like a real noob. It's Rock Hard 1977, and I couldn't let that go because it was bothering me after I said it. I said Hard Rock, and I was like, I don't think that's the right thing. But we're not talking about that game. We're talking about HiFi, a great music-themed game. So if you like music-themed games, then check it out. Sporting Chance Games is releasing the card game Football Feud. This plays 2 to 6 players in 10 to 20 minutes, and it is a lightweight card game. This is, you know, we're in football season right now. Obviously, the NFL just started, college football just started. People are excited that football is back. It is the most popular sport in America. And I think Football Feud is going to be a great game for people that love football that don't maybe play a lot of modern board games. This is a game I could see people playing at halftime during football games and stuff like that in a cool way. It's a game that I played that surprised me a lot, like how much I like it. It's certainly a quick playing card game, but in it you are you're getting cards. You're getting 7 cards. You can discard any of those cards and then redraw, and then you're playing your 5 best cards out of your hand. And all the cards, they're either passing cards or rushing cards, or there's a few defensive cards in the deck as well. But you are trying to create 100 yards with your hand. If you create 100 yards, you are scoring a touchdown. And then the defensive cards might take away yards from other people or steal a card out of their hands, stuff like that. But the most interesting sort of choice of the game is each type of, you know, whether you're a quarterback or a running back, they're going to have different yard amounts on the cards. Like there's a card for like 60 yards. That's great. And then there's a bunch of cards that get you 0 yards. But if you play 3 of the exact same cards, it gets you a 100-yard bonus. However, if you only have 2 of those, your hand sucks because you got 2 cards that are worth 0 yards, so it's going to be hard for you to get to 100 yards. So there's that interesting sort of push your luck when you are discarding cards and redrawing back. You're like, man, do I go for that 100-yard bonus? Do I keep these zeros in my hand, or do I hope that I get cards that are worth more yards? However, there are more cards that are fewer yards in the deck than there are cards of those higher yards. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting push your luck, play your best 5-card hand, and it's got a good, it does feel thematically like football and stuff like that, so I think it will appeal to football fans for sure. The Op is releasing Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang's Destiny. So I do a number of games. I do a number of videos in my retail series. This is the one that people know about the best games coming to retail. I also do a video on the best new editions coming to retail. And that one I'm doing because there's just so many new editions of older games or re-implementations of older games coming to retail these days. So I do a whole video series on that. I struggled where to put Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang's Destiny, because it is sort of a re-implementation of Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. However, it is a totally standalone game. You don't have to know anything about Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, and it's also got a bunch of different stuff that isn't similar to that game. So if you know Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, it's similar in that it is a deck-building game that is sort of revealed over chapters. There are 7 boxes in the box that will be revealing new characters, new cards, new mechanisms, all of that stuff. So in that way, it's a great introduction to deck building because the first box is very, very easy. You can play it with kids and stuff like that. And then it really scales up in mechanisms and difficulty as you reveal more content and new chapters. So that is similar to Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. And in that sense, I would recommend this one because I know a lot of people want an introduction to deck building, but maybe don't want to do anything with the Harry Potter theme because of J.K. Rowling stuff. Well, this is one that you could jump in and have a good introduction to deck building games. But again, it's also really its own game and you don't have to know anything about it, so I'm putting it in this video, but I'm telling you all that context. So it is a cooperative deck building game with 7 different chapters. You're going to reveal content along the way. You're going to be getting new cards and all of that sort of stuff. Deck building, the classic deck building where you can buy cards out of a market and that sort of stuff. But it has the Avatar: The Last Airbender theme here. So if you like that, then that's a good reason to check this out. Weird City Games is releasing 3 of a Kind. This is a party game I really, really like. I had a chance to play this with a big group. It plays 2 to 8 players in 25 minutes, and it is a lightweight game. If you have played games like Green Team Wins, or Wavelength, or Blob Party, all of those games are sort of about getting on the same page as other players. You get points if you're in the majority, and 3 of a Kind matches that, but it almost makes it more strategic because you're going to reveal 1 category card and then 3 adjective cards, and you're going to write 3 different responses in your own sort of player booklet, and you are going to score points for everybody else that wrote the same thing as you on their, in their board. And so if 4 people wrote the same thing, we're all scoring 4 points. You are trying to think the same as other people. But, if modes of transportation comes up and then the adjectives might be like quickest, most magical, smelliest. So, okay, quickest, are you going to put like airplane, or Are you thinking like a bullet train or something like that? Or are you maybe even going more out of the box and you're like, well, the quickest form of transportation is teleportation. Maybe you wrote teleportation because you're thinking of, nerdy fantasy stuff, Modes of transportation. What's the most magical? Riding a unicorn. Are you going to write riding a unicorn? And so there's like these fun sort of specific combinations of adjectives and categories that don't necessarily have a right answer, but you're just trying to think about what everybody else is writing, and there's some wild answers and all that sort of stuff. So again, I feel like it's almost like a little bit more strategic green team wins and stuff like that. I really had a great time playing 3 of a kind for sure. So that's what I got for you this month. That is 28 games coming to retail in the month of September. September is always like a pretty big month for retail releases because a lot of things that debuted at Gen Con in August are now hitting retail right now. And so again, I didn't even include like another 15 games that are hitting retail right now. So as always, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing, all that sort of stuff. I'm glad that everybody finds these videos useful because there's a lot of information and I do a lot of research on them, but helping you find what's coming to stores and stuff near you. All right, thanks so much. I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Oh, and please check out my comedy special, Silly Mustache Man. I really appreciate it. All right, see you soon.